Alexandrian School last week, and so this is part 2 of our study of the Alexandrian School. And I think it's good to take a couple of weeks here because this is a very important period in early church history that has a lot of parallels with where we are today. That's the point of studying history, is to learn from history and to be able to see what the outcome was over the long haul for certain choices and actions that were made with good intentions at the time, but you remember that good intentions have unintended consequences. It's always important to learn, and that's the benefit of having this 2,000 years of church history that we live in, that the first Christians in the early centuries didn't have. They didn't have 2,000 years of church history to look at and learn from and see, well, what happens if we do this, or what happens if we do this, and then they made those mistakes, but we can learn from their mistakes. And while most people don't learn anything from history, God's people can learn from history. And that's why God has put so much history inside the Bible, so that we learn from Israel's mistakes, both in the Old Testament and in the time of Christ. And then we also learn from the church's mistakes as we have all of this church history. And as we go back and look and evaluate the decisions of these early church teachers, especially speaking about the Alexandrian school, it's important for us to be gracious to these men and to recognize that they didn't have everything that we have. That men like Origen of Alexandria, they didn't have the resources that have been accumulated for us in our time, not only the knowledge of history, but also just the advance of doctrine. They were still working through a lot of the basic doctrines of the New Testament. They were facing certain heresies, and they were facing those heresies with courage and with boldness.